4-point game. DeJulius puts up a three. Yeah! And a goal!
It's Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network. Early part of the week show. I'm your host, Russ Heltman. He is my co-host, Neil Meyer, coming off of a the most dominant win UC has had as a member of the Big 12. Well, in the conference, that is. 92-56 victory on Saturday over the West Virginia Mountaineers. A Mountaineers team that, honestly, in my opinion, has completely given up on the season. There was a descript lack of effort compared to what we have seen from other hungry Big 12 outfits this year, but we'll dive into that in just a moment after I tell you about Bet Online. Bet Online continues to be your number one place for all your basketball wagering needs as we get into pro and college hoops playoffs and March Madness throughout the next month or so. With up-to-the-minute odds, stats, and trends, you can follow your favorite team's path to the playoff with in-game live betting, contests, and all the best player props. Experience the world's best wagering platform anytime from your desktop or mobile devices. Head to Bet Online today to become part of the team, and remember to use promo code BELIEVE for your 50% welcome bonus on that first deposit. Bet Online, the game starts here. Neil Meyer, welcome you in, my man. Big win for the Bearcats, 92-56. I would say the man of the hour was John Newman, and then his running mate, Dan Skillings. Those two guys led the way in scoring. John Newman with 14 points, highly efficient, 7 of 10 from the field, filled it up with 6 rebounds, 4 assists as well. And then Dan Skillings, 5 of 8, another efficient night from him also to complement John Newman, 17 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and goes 6 of 8 from the free throw line. Nice aggressive action from Dan Skillings. And also the front court, Neil, perfect on Saturday. 6 for 6 from Jamil Reynolds, 4 for 4 from Aziz Bandaogo, the latter of which Bandaogo was a monster around the rim, a huge reason why Cincinnati won the point paint battle 48-14, and they shot almost 70%. I mean, actually, they were hovering right around 70% overall from inside a three-point range. The outside shot still not there, Neil, but for once at home, the Bearcats made seemingly every little bunny bucket right near the rim.
Yeah, and it was a great sight to see. I know a lot of people were talking about this season. If they make a couple of those layups or mid-range jumpers around the rim, some outcomes could be different. But, man, was it a dominant performance at Fifth Third Arena on Saturday, in a game where they desperately needed to build some momentum heading into the Big 12 tournament that kicks off Tuesday with a rematch versus West Virginia. But overall, a dominant day from John Newman. First off, we have to give our flowers to John Newman for everything he has done through his 3 years here at Cincinnati. Odio Guama as well, Chase Kirkwood, Landon Long, the other seniors. So overall, John Newman, what a way to go out on senior night. Russ, I think we talked about it heading into this one. Like, senior day is always one of those games where one of the seniors have, as of late, had career days. I mean, we saw it with David DeJulius. John Newman follows up with this one. And it was a great sight to see for John, especially after battling the knee injury, having doubts of potentially coming back for this season. Just seeing him all have the season he had, like, it was great to see him end like that at Fifth Third Arena. And then the post play, Russ, we have to talk about the front court. Held Jesse Edwards to 8 points and 4 rebounds in this contest.
The physicality.
This was something that you and I both talked about that they had to do in order to win this game. They had to find a way to keep Jesse Edwards off the board. I mean, he was coming off a 36-13 performance versus TCU. And, man, did they make him a non-factor on Saturday. Literally a non-factor. 4 for 7 from the field, 8 points, 4 rebounds. I bet you every team in the Big 12 wishes they would just be able to contain Jesse Edwards to those kind of numbers this season. I mean, heck, especially TCU after what he did to them the other night. But they just made it difficult for West Virginia to get anything going. I mean, it did look like they kind of are a little bit lost cause right now out there in Morgantown as the season quickly ends.
Defense, Neil, I mean, it was
atrocious.
Easily the worst defense you and I have seen a Bearcats team play in 2024. Ever since the calendar turned to the Big 12, I mean, this team has given up 80 points per game in conference. They were awful yesterday. Like the rotations, it looked like a different sport compared to what I've watched in this league over the last 3 weeks or last 2 months at that. So I think it was a solid win for the Bearcats. You did exactly what you're supposed to do against a team like that. If you're a team that's still hungry, that's still ready to fight this season, which is what we saw from this outfit yesterday. They're still hungry. They're still ready to fight. But Neil, they didn't get any, just like the entire season, just like the entire Ken Pom luck factor in the bottom 20s, the luck worked against them again yesterday, despite a 36-point victory, because what does Kansas State do? They pull off the upset of upsets. They beat Iowa State in a game they were not by any means favored to win. And it now means that Cincinnati has one of the 4 toughest paths remaining of any Big 12 team to make the NCAA tournament. The dreaded 5 in 5 days, Neil. 5 in 5 days is really brutal. And it's another luck factor for the Bearcats that we'll get into in just a moment in terms of that path. But just wrapping up this game, wrapping up the regular season, just what could have been, man? What could have been? Those 8 losses in conference play by 5 or fewer points. 5 or fewer points, 8 losses. It's just brutal, man. It's crazy. I think it might have been just single digits. I think it might. Yeah, I think you're right, Neil. I think it's total single digits. 8 losses by single digits, and like 6 or 7 of those are by 5 or less too. So it's just the margins are so thin. They were so thin this year, Neil, and you could just tell in the press conference that it felt good for the players. It felt good to Wes Miller. They could breathe a bit of a sigh of relief knowing they got this one done compared to what they had accomplished in the past couple weeks. But it's just clear on their faces in that they know they let some slip away this year that have put them in a position where they would have already been in the NCAA tournament. Had really 2 and definitely 3. 3 of those single-digit losses flipped their way. They're projected to go dancing with 1 victory in the Big 12 tournament.
Yeah, and that's a great point that you mentioned, Russ. I think the only game in Big 12 conference play where they lost by more than single digits was the blowout at TCU a couple weeks ago. I mean, they battled with Houston, they battled with Iowa State, they battled with Baylor. I mean, they were right there with Kansas as well. And right now, I mean, heading into the Big 12 tournament, you get your win versus West Virginia, so sets up another rematch after Kansas State does what a lot of people didn't think they would do, and that's knock off Iowa State. But overall, man, just those close games. And it's been something that Wes Miller and players have mentioned this season was feel like we let a couple slip away. But if they get those wins knocked down, you're looking at a team where all they have to do is, heck, maybe win 1 game in Big 12 play and they're going dancing, as you mentioned. But sometimes, it might not even came down to that. That Baylor game, you win that Baylor game on the road. You win the Texas game. A couple others there. I mean, you win the game at Xavier or even Dayton. You pick up those 4 wins right there, 2 of them in non-conference play. I mean, the Xavier win's not really doing much right now because they're finished below 500, but Dayton was a top 25 team. Then you finish with Texas and Baylor. You win those 3 potentially. You're looking at a team that's going dancing already, potentially. So overall, they know they got to make some noise in the Big 12 tournament. It's not going to be easy, but overall, it's still year 1 in the Big 12, and people have to realize that this is the best conference in America, and yesterday was a great showcase of that. Kansas State went in, took down number 6 Iowa State in a game that they were not projected to win or even close to win. So it's just one of those conferences. And I mean, Russ, if we're talking about the Big 12, Houston just blew out Kansas by 30 yesterday. Nobody had that on a bingo card. So that's the everyday life of the Big 12 conference.
That it is. So close all year long. So close all year long. And when we look at the final Ken Pom, luck rankings this season, Cincinnati checking in at a crispy 349th. 349th. Cincinnati Reds get a player suspended for PEDs. Bearcats can't get any luck. Xavier goes under 500 for the first time in almost 30 years. A brutal year so far in 2024 for Cincinnati sports. Hopefully it can start to turn around for the 513 faithful. We'll see if the path to get there and start turning that around in terms of the Cincinnati season projection can actually get pulled off. They have to win probably at least 4 games in 5 days, if not the entire whole kahuna at the Big 12 tournament in Kansas City, if they want to go dancing. in 2024. We'll dive into that path after this on Bearcat Blitz. UC tipping off in the Big 12 tournament on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday, March 12th, going up against West Virginia once again. Neil, it's probably going to be the articles and the preview coming up at the end of this show are going to be looking pretty similar, honestly, going into this game because there's not much difference. You're coming off the same exact game, same exact opponent, an opponent you should win and you should beat, I should say, and get on to the next round of the tournament, which, as we look at it here, is going to feature Kansas on Wednesday night. If they can beat West Virginia, and then if they win that game, they will face Baylor the following late night action as well. I don't think the late night honestly helps the Bearcats at all. The path is just brutal. It is brutal. Mm-hmm. They needed a win really badly by Kansas State. Or excuse me, they needed a win by Iowa State on Saturday to help that path get a little bit easier. You at least, Neil, avoid the number 1 and number 2 seed until the semifinal if you can get there. But as we've mentioned, this team is yet to win back-to-back games in the Big 12. They will have won back-to-back games in the Big 12 should they get the job done in another game they're favored in on Tuesday. But as I mentioned, I'm not putting a lot of stock in the wins over West Virginia at this point in the season. The team has given up. They gave up. All you have to do is watch Josh Eilert's press conference yesterday to know that that's a coach who's coaching a team interim-wise that has given up on him, given up on the program. They have just, there's no consistent effort from West Virginia. You have no clue what you're going to get out of that outfit. They could go in and West Virginia could play them tight to final buzzer action, or they could get beat by 35 again. It's very possible. And I would be shocked if it's more so of the former than the latter, just given the effort level I saw from that West Virginia team on Saturday. So, Neil, they should get the job done Tuesday. And then you're going up against the Kansas team that's lost 8 games in this conference, that has not looked dominant at all. And then a Baylor team that you took pretty close to the wire, right up to the gun on the road in the beginning portions of conference play. So the path isn't impossible, but winning 5 games in 5 days is just so difficult to pull off in this league.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll be out there in Kansas City covering the tournament and the first opening game, however the outcomes may go. So I'll be out there all week, but it's not going to be an easy task. I mean, obviously you get Iowa State to beat Kansas State on Saturday if that was the outcome that many would have recommended, because then you go in, you get BYU, you get the Oklahoma State or the UCF team up first. Then you're playing your way into a BYU versus Texas Tech, which are both teams you have beaten. But instead, you have to now potentially win versus West Virginia, play into a banged-up Houston after Hunter Dickinson gets hurt with the shoulder injury. Kevin McCullough's still banged up. So you're still playing into a Kansas team, which is juggernauts in the Big 12, especially in conference tournament time. And then you're playing into Baylor. And Baylor has been fantastic this season. They're still ranked in the top 15. So overall, I mean, it's not going to be an easy path for Wes Miller and the Bearcats, but they get the momentum building after their 35-point victory over West Virginia on Saturday. But as you mentioned, Russ, you never know at this time of year what may happen. This is March for a reason. Heck, West Virginia could show up and it could be a flipped outcome. It could be a reverse outcome of what happened yesterday. We saw it last year. The Bearcats fell to Temple, I believe, last season. And then they go into Temple in the first round of the tournament and beat them by 30. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those situations where it kind of scares you a little bit playing the same opponent twice, even though West Virginia has basically given up on Josh Eilert, which sucks to say, but they are not out there playing.
Right. It's like, we don't say that lightly, Neil. Like, that was glaring. How it was, bad awful. It was. The communication, nobody trying to communicate, nobody putting in maximum effort on defense. Like, this team, if UC loses to this team, it's going to look really, really bad. But Neil makes a great point, and it's why Neil was so afraid of this situation last week. Is this is a rare thing, and something that you don't want to go through is having to play the same team twice on a different floor in a scenario where I asked Wes Miller about that yesterday, and he said, I don't think I've really had any experience. He said he couldn't recall any experience in his coaching career having to play a team in the final game of the regular season and then immediately again afterwards 2 days later in the conference tournament. So it's a unique thing for everybody. It's not something that I think people can automatically chalk a win up to, but it would be extremely disappointing if UC went and beat West Virginia by 36 to close the regular season and then had West Virginia in their season 2 days later on a neutral floor. It would be very, very concerning to see that happen. I don't think that's going to happen. We'll get to the prediction at the end of the show here after we touch on a couple of quick spring football just nuggets that we've seen over the first 3 practices or so. But 92-56 victory over West Virginia in the first game. Neil, I think you and I both expecting to get the job done on Tuesday afternoon. And then when we look at the rest of the path here, Kansas, Baylor, and you're probably facing Iowa State. I wouldn't anticipate them losing that first game in the tournament, although you could, I guess. But in that case, you're still going to have a quad 1 opponent most likely facing you, at least a quad 2 in the following game if it is Kansas State that ends up getting hot here and pulling off a win over Texas and Iowa State. If Texas gets the win over Iowa State, it's a quad 1 for sure. And obviously an Iowa State matchup for UC would be a quad 1 opportunity. That would give you a quad 3, a quad 1, a quad 1, and another quad 1 win over Iowa State, getting you into the Big 12 championship game. I think they would have a chance, a puncher's chance, possibly to get in the dance if some of those other at-large bid kind of teetering conferences go the way that the Bearcats need them to go. But even then, Neil, I don't know if they're going to get the benefit of the doubt going under 500 in their own conference, in conference play. When you look at the final record tally for the Bearcats sitting at 6-11 in the Big 12, it's just, I don't know even if they get to the conference title game, they're going to get the benefit of the doubt selection committee compared to the rest of the at-large teams that have better conference records and comparable resumes to them and better out-of-conference resumes at that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you talked about the record-wise. I mean, West Virginia went into the conference tournament last year, I believe 8-10. They still made the tournament after making a run, but overall, sitting at that non-conference schedule is what's going to hurt. If that is what comes down to it, that'll be something that will hurt the Bearcats just due to the strength of schedule. I believe we talked about, Russ, they were really low in terms of strength of schedule. I believe you said 340 something, if I remember right.
Yeah, in terms of non-conference strength of schedule, it is 295th in the country. Not good enough.
So either way, the Big 12 play, they know they had their opportunities there, but if they can go in there and make some noise, got to find a way to get to that 4th or 5th game, or at least the 3rd game. If you can go in there and get the 3rd game and some things happen in your favor.
Neil, it's got to be the title game. They got to win 4 games at least. They can't. I think you really do. Like the loss at West Virginia is the big thing holding them back right now. That is the biggest thing holding them back.
Oklahoma State loss.
Right. Yeah. Those 2 quad 3 losses are killing them. They're absolutely killing them right now because if you get those wins, Neil, what are you? You're 9-9 in conference. What are you right now? You're 7-11 in conference. Excuse me. I said 6-11. They got the 7-11 with that last victory over West Virginia. So it's just those Q3 losses are really keeping them from having a strong enough case over other at-larges to make sure they don't have to at least get to the conference title game to have any hope at a punch ticket. We'll see how it goes over the next week. Obviously, check back in and either wrap up the season or keep the previews cooking and see where they're going heading into the weekend. This 2024 Big 12 tournament tipping off in just a couple of days or a few hours, depending on when you're listening to this. Taking a quick break, we'll give a preview and we'll give a little look at what's going on spring practice-wise through the first week for UC Bearcats football. We'll close the show with a preview of the Tuesday rematch, the rubber match on the season between Cincinnati and West Virginia. Winner stays alive, loser goes home. and has their 2023-24 season come to an end. Although the Bearcats, I guess, are a possible candidate for the NIT if they choose to go that route after the season, should they not make the NCAA tournament. Neil, spring practice, real quick, just give a little touch on it. The vibes are high. The vibes are high for the Bearcats football team. It seems like everybody was bought in to the winter workout program. People talking about how difficult it was, how intense it was, how it brought people together. I think the togetherness of this group is what I took away the most from this first week compared to what we saw last year, and just the noting of that from guys in our interviews, guys noting how people are just joking around more. People are together more. When you and I were with the last practice on Thursday, there were some fights at times, but I love to see that because they weren't like major scuffles. They weren't like bad blood scuffles. It was high intensity, high competitive kind of action that spurned into a little bit of frustration here and there. But guys even turned that with the second fight that we saw, the guys turned it into a fun thing where they were like just falling on the ground, like fake fighting with each other, like fake acting like they were punching each other and stuff, and just having a good time with it. It was all just good vibes in the first week. And on top of that, I think just wide open. Like and we don't give any leadership in the clubhouse, any leaders in this overall QB competition, but it feels in terms of being vague on what we saw the first week, feels pretty wide open to me from the top position on this roster.
Yeah, overall, that's the big thing is the togetherness. I mean, this is a group. I mean, you've heard it in all of our interviews, which you guys can find on both of our YouTube channels and social media as well. You can find those out for those videos. So go check those out if you want to listen to what guys like Jack Dingle, Dante Corleone, Corey Kiner, a couple other guys had to say throughout this offseason or the spring ball so far. We have all talked to a few players, but that's the number one thing that has came up is the togetherness. And a lot of people were bought in from this offseason. They know that they have a lot of things to build off of from last season. And that's the main thing that they have always said throughout this 3 days that we were able to attend spring practice was we know last season wasn't where it wanted to be, and they are determined to build off of that. And that started with the off-season workout program led by Nico Palazzetti. And overall, a lot of people said that was the hardest workout program that they have been around or had to endure, and it's brought them closer. So that's been the number one thing is the togetherness. Obviously, this is a whole, I believe, Russ, we're sitting at 27 new faces, correct? 27?
Yeah, 27 or 28, including all the early enrollees that are already here.
Yeah, so. And that's basically half of a roster in college football. So overall, a lot of new faces, but as Russ mentioned, it's a wide open battle, top to bottom.
Yeah, really on all the positions. Like, I mean, it's really too early to have any real strong idea of what's going to happen with all these spots. But I mean, it's not like, for example, like I haven't seen Brendan Sorsby dominate things in terms of stuff. He's played well for sure. He's looked good. He's looked like he's supposed to look. But Samaj Jones has looked really good to me as well. Brady Lichtenberg has had some of the throws of practices throughout this week. He's looked very good. So it's good to see the competition sparking and bringing the best out of guys. I think that's what we've seen so far in the earliest portions of what you can really take away from spring practice. Not really anything negative to say about what we saw in this first week. Things very organized. Seems like there's a strong plan. There's a strong talent base compared to what we saw last year, Neil. I mean, Scott Satterfield noted that, especially at the wide receiver position. It's night and day what they have out there right now compared to what was out there this time last year. So, yeah. So good to see there as we transition into a final little look here on Bearcat Blitz. Your preview and prediction, Neil. Neil, I mean, I could take Raekwon Battle if you want. You could take Jesse Edwards. It's kind of up to you, my man. We're giving out a similar type of preview and prediction as we run it back with West Virginia. Go ahead and take the floor with your player and prediction, and we'll close it out with mine.
Yeah, obviously, I said it last time. I didn't expect Cincinnati to hold Jesse Edwards to just 8 points and 4 rebounds. Especially with no Victor Locken, I thought that was a matchup where Jesse Edwards could really kind of excel. I mean, he dominated in the first matchup, but seeing those kind of numbers, Russ, I think we're all pretty happy seeing that Jesse Edwards was held to just 8 points and 4 rebounds. But for the Bearcats, it starts with Jesse Edwards up front for West Virginia. If they can get Jesse Edwards to have a similar night to what they had held him to on Saturday, which was that 8 points, That's pretty good. But overall, I mean, Jesse Edwards is going to go as Jesse Edwards shows. As West Virginia goes, it's going to be the Raekwon Battle Jesse Edwards show, no matter which way you think about it. So overall, my player to watch is Jesse Edwards just because he was averaging 16 points a game. I believe 8 points is his lowest he's had in the last few weeks in conference play. But the veteran forward, 7-footer, has been in plenty of tournaments throughout his career after starting at Syracuse. He provides the experience. I think he's going to have a better day for West Virginia on Tuesday night.
What do you got score-wise, Neil?
Score-wise, I definitely don't have a 36-point blowout again. I didn't have that on my bingo card the first time. But I'm going to go with Cincinnati 80 to West Virginia 64. So I still think a double-digit margin, but I think West Virginia's offense starts to click a little bit more.
All right. Neil, go with the Bearcats to get a matchup set against Kansas on Wednesday evening. I'm going with the Bearcats as well. Give me Cincinnati 85 to 71. The defense is just so bad from West Virginia. It's an absolute disgrace. I don't need to say anything else about it. And on top of that, I just don't think they have enough offensive firepower to take pressure off of Jesse Edwards, as you just mentioned, getting a full scout of Jesse Edwards Cincinnati did this time, as opposed to him getting thrown in the lineup abruptly in the first outing in Morgantown, and then them having to deal with him just out of the gates. Similar situation here. I think they're going to be able to throw Aziz Bandago, Jamil Reynolds, that front court physicality at Edwards, and be able to throw him off his game, and similar type of physicality that's going to throw the game off of Raekwon Battle, who I mentioned was on a heater going into the last game, the 92-56 loss for West Virginia, and he got absolutely stoned up in that one. 9 points, 4 of 10 from the field, just 1 of 4 from deep, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 turnover. He was a non-factor, due in large part to the defense of John Newman III, Day Thomas, and the rest of that backcourt. They were fantastic again, like they have been all season. I expect them to be Bulldogs on Battle also and get the job done with another double-digit victory for the Bearcats. So that'll do it on Bearcat Blitz, our early week edition. Catch us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever medium you want to watch or listen to the show on, and we will be back at it to either recap some victories in the Big 12 tournament or tie a bow on the 2023-24 Big 12 regular season and postseason for the Bearcats. For Neil Meyer, I'm Russ Eltman. This has been Bearcat Blitz on the Believe Network.
This is the second. 15 seconds left. Shot clock off. 4-point game. DeJulius puts up a 3.